My name is Michael Egbert. My project was on the history of mercenaries throughout the United States history, and I wanted to bring it about because I found in most of the curriculums that I looked at there wasn't a strong relationship between how mercenaries were portrayed in the history of the United States actually helping form the nation and where they're viewed at in today's political and global climate. So I'll walk you through my presentation here. I started off in the U.S. Revolution, first use of mercenaries by the United States, specifically the European reformers that helped reform the country's military from a militia to a fully professional army, and also the privateers, which were really our main naval force during the time, and how they interacted to help build the country. I went on to the War of 1812, and specifically the use of privateers again, and I really wanted the kids to relate the use of privateers in the War of 1812 to how they did in the Revolutionary time, and really look at if they prevented or helped the evolution of a standing navy for the country. We went on to the Battle of New Orleans. In this area, I wanted the students to actually do research and decide for themselves whether the participants of the Battle of New Orleans for the American side were mercenaries or were something else, because a lot of them weren't actual military, so they were going to decide for themselves. The U.S. Civil War, the Pinkerton Detective Agency actually foiled a plot by assassins to kill Lincoln, so I wanted them to look at that, and they also did a lot of spying for the North, so I wanted to look at that, and they were outside of the framework of the U.S. military. In World War I, we had American pilots flying for the French. There was really our first interaction in the European theater of war, so this was before the United States was part of the war, so they're flying for the French in French planes, not American planes. And again, in World War II, we had the Flying Tigers, American pilots flying for the Chinese over Chinese territory. We weren't involved in the war yet, classified as mercenaries. And all these things, the students will be finding information on their own. I'm a big fan of them actually doing their own research and not just dictating to them. So all these ideas, the students are going to be researching themselves. In Vietnam War, we hired the Mountain Yards to actually fight for us, and I want the students to actually look at how they were recruited and also what happened to them after their interactions with the United States after their end of the Vietnam War. Again, the students are going to be doing a lot of this research themselves. Then we get into the first, second Iraq wars, and then we're going to go into Afghanistan, where mercenaries really came to what they are today. So, just the relationship between the first and the second Iraq war. In the first Iraq war, we had 1 in 100 people in the theater were mercenaries. In the second Iraq war, it was 1 in 10. So, in Afghanistan, it's a whole overview of mercenaries in the region. Again, students are going to be doing a lot of their own research. I want them interacting with the material. I believe that working in groups and having them do their own research, they're going to learn more and actually learn how to learn on themselves. And then, with the withdrawal of the U.S. troops, the private military companies really took over the role of the U.S. military, and they really expanded to be what they are today, which is a multi-billion-dollar organizations operating in multiple countries throughout the world. In this area, one of the last units we have, I want the students to try and interact with the private military companies in the United States and also with their senators and congressmen. Try and open up a dialogue and ask their own questions, whatever they think is important in the area. And I want them to try and start a dialogue to get an idea of how to interact. And just the end unit, you're going to be organizing everything. I gave a lot of options what it could possibly be, but I'd like to end every unit with an ending project to try and bring everything together. Thank you for your time.